Jewish authorities, this has been labored over plenty by everybody, but look at John 18, Annas, the father-in-law of Caiaphas. So this is a family that has the high priestess. Annas, really his name is Annas. You look at the biography of the death of James. This is the first Annas. He's supposed to be the trial of Jesus. His son, Annas, Ben Annas, is the one who pursues James and finally destroys him in a Sanhedrin trial. Now there's another member besides Caiaphas who's just a brother-in-law. By the way, we found, it looks like we found Caiaphas' burial box among one of these interesting ossuary finds, and you can Google that up if you're interested. It was found about 10 years ago in a locale around Jerusalem. It's got Kaifa scribbled on it in very rough script. K-I-A-P-H-A, Kaifa. So it looks like it was his. It doesn't look like it was a forgery. Maybe it was, but I don't think it was. You can look that up if you want. And then there's another one that Josephus talks about in the 50s called Jonathan. He's also a son of this Annas. He was at the first trial here, supposedly, of Jesus. The sequence of high priests here. Now, Jonathan, why he appears in the 50s in Josephus, is assassinated by the Zealots. What? I always tell you, look at enemies. Group together like people and like enemies. The early Christians and the Zealots have the same enemies. Annas is abominated by the Zealots. And the most extreme wing of the Zealot party, in particular the Sicarii, who I'm sure didn't call themselves this, as I made a point over and over again in my work. Sicarii is the Roman word for knife. Short knife, a little like the Arab dagger. They always have a curved little knife that they had on, the Arabs have walk around with it. I've told you about that previously. Josephus introduces the Sicarii in the 50s as the extreme wing of the Zealot party in the assassination of Jonathan, the son of Annas. Now, why were the Sicarii assassinating the same people responsible for the death, if this is some accuracy here, of persons, messianic agitators and messianic revolutionaries and agitators like Jesus? If we can, identify Jesus in any precise historical way at a given time. Why do they have the same enemies? Why are they assassinating these people? And why, when they finally get control of things in the temple, that's why it's important to read Josephus carefully. In the last phase of the uprising against Rome, right in the middle of the siege by the Romans, when Josephus actually starts calling them not Sicarii but Zealots for the first time, he doesn't use the word Zealot ever. Never uses the word Zealot in his early writings. He even uses Sicarii before Zealot. Even when he talks about Judas the Galilean, he calls the movement of Judas the Galilean a fourth school of thought. He doesn't call them Zealots. We call them Zealots because we think the term is being used. No, he only starts talking about Zealots when we get vengeance, I think, for the death of James. After the death of James in 62, we know it's because of Annas ben Annas. Josephus makes it very clear about that. Now, these are historical materials in Josephus that I think are accurate. Why? Because they seem accurate. They're not supernatural or anything like that. They're just prosaically presented to you. Josephus has no reason to doctor them up too much, a little bit perhaps. So then these zealots surreptitiously allow a wild group of non-Jews to enter the city, and they go through the city and slaughter all the high priests. And in particular, why are they slaughtering all the high priests? I thought the high priests were the popular people. I thought they're responsible for the death of messianic leaders, that the crowd is applauding. Now, you see, it's all nonsense. The crowd is against the high priests. Why? Because the high priests are put in power by the Herodian family and are considered to be corrupt. It's a puppet high priesthood. They want a righteous high priesthood. That's what the Dead Sea Scrolls are all about, a righteous high priesthood, and the letter to the Hebrews is very much into that idea of a priesthood, of a priest of higher righteousness. priesthood order after the order of Melchizedek, Zedek meaning righteousness. So they go through this, and they slaughter Ananus ben Ananus and Josephus' own friend, a guy called Jesus ben Gamaliel, who Josephus over and over again shows he loves. I have a lot about those people in the New Testament code. Now, one of the big things they do is throw their bodies. Josephus said they stood above them and berated them for their kindness to the people, which is a big joke. In earlier, the Vita, his autobiography, he said Ananus ben Ananus was involved in illegal olive oil operations in Galilee and undercut his mission in Galilee. Here he's saying that Ananus ben Ananus is being upbraided for his kindness to the people. That's just rubbish. He's covering over, he's afraid, he knows that he's got to be careful of what he says about these events. The temple has already fallen, he's living in Rome. This is in the, this is a point in his career that he has to watch what he says. But in any event, you can read through it. He's very upset about his friend Jesus ben Gamaliel being killed like this. He says they upbraided their dead bodies and they threw them naked outside the city without burial as food for jackal and dogs. And it's at that point he goes through the care which the Jews usually took for burial customs and taking down the people from crosses at nightfall, even breaking their legs so that they would die before nightfall, and he explains the whole gospel presentation of Jesus, of the last days of, at that point when he talks about the death of Ananus ben Ananus. Are you following me? So this is also not suspicious, but interesting. Is this what the gospel writers are drawing upon when they have the Roman soldiers come and break their legs, etc., 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 etc.? We'll get to that next time, obviously. But, and I hope I go faster. But, look, I have an image in my mind, perhaps it's wrong, that these people hated Ananus ben Ananus. Why did they hate them? Because of the death of these previous leaders. There couldn't be, there has to be a reason why they took such particular hatred of these particular high priests and their role in the death of James. I think this is James' party, in fact. I do think James' party is the Zealots. Now, just in the book of Acts, when James meets Paul in Acts 21, he says, but you see, Paul, we have so many people here. They've heard all of what you're doing in the diaspora and they don't approve of it. All of them are zealots for the law. He actually uses the word zelotai, ton Newman or something like that, zealots for the law. Well, how can all the early Christians be zealots for the law? Well, that's because it's the zealot party. And James is the leader of the zealot party.